What is going on? My name is Psyche, and welcome back to Dead Cells. So this time around, I'm going to be doing a tactics run. But this just isn't like any other tactics run, because in this run, I'm going to pick up a double damage electric whip. So a theme of this run will be electric damage. So before I go any further though, I mainly post Dead Cells content of guides as well as 5BC runs just like this one. So if any of that is interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel. It takes up no time at all and it really helps me out. And if you don't like what you see anymore, then unsubscribing is just as easy as doing it. So here, I'm just gonna pick up some basic items to start me off here in the prisoner's quarters. Just with the alchemic carbine as well as a shield, because I really like using shields. It's becoming something of a necessity, especially at 4 to 5 BC, because normally newer players tend to avoid shields because they can't really get the hang of parrying. But once you get the hang of it, it's very good. It essentially makes you feel you're invincible, which is very nice. So we get the 30 kills and we pick up the lightning bolt, which I don't have that much experience using, mainly because it hurts you after a while that after you use it for a bit. If you can get the hang of using it, then it's pretty good. And there I just get foolishly bitten by one of those plants. That's unfortunate, but whatever. The lightning bolt by itself doesn't do that much damage, it looks like, but once you hold down the attack button for a bit, it will do critical hits for like 5 ticks, and then it will start to hurt you, so you have to let go before the lightning turns red. And even if you're cursed, getting hurt with the lightning bolt will still kill you in one hit, so that's also something you gotta watch out for. So this video is recorded about 1 week before Fatal Falls came out, so unfortunately it will not contain new content. However, I promise this will be the last video that is in version 2.1 of the game, so any videos that come after this will contain the brand new content from the DLC. Because I'm entering midterm season, I have to slow down with my uploads, and now I'm just kind of like commentating over old runs that I did, so that I can put out some new content for the channel. I picked Parting Gift as my first mutation because, Parting Gift is just very busted, and here the Shield Bearer is kind of giving me a lot of trouble. On paper, they are easy enemies to kill, but if they're grouped together like that, then it's kind of a problem. So skipping forward, like I said before, usually in these runs, I kind of skip over where nothing really happens and kind of just skip over to the highlights where the fights are actually interesting. As for video length, I'm not sure what people want to see, whether or not people want like extremely short videos, or do I leave runs completely uncut where the video is like over 1 hour long, or is this the perfect point to balance everything? So college for myself is still going pretty well, though finding internships as well as other opportunities is proving to be a bit difficult right now considering the circumstances. In case anyone's wondering, I plan on getting a degree in social work so that I can focus on mental health, since that is my area of interest. So in these couple past years since in college, I've just been taking psychology courses because I'm really interested in psychology. And even in high school, I thought psychology was all about like reading people's minds, kind of like psychics or whatever, but now that I'm in college, that's actually not the case. As cool as it is to read other people's minds, that's just not something that's just not very realistic. And most of the time, in psychology courses, you kind of just talk about issues and histories, including mental health, which I've actually grown really interested by. That's why I'm planning to become a social worker sometime when I graduate, so yeah, I've got something to look forward to that. So right now, I'm just looking to get some volunteer experience relating to mental health, preferably in a mental health facility so that I can get more experience for my application. I'm not sure the age of people watching me are, so if you're a fellow college student, you would know the struggles of finding a job. And here, just entering a challenge rift, leaving my amulet back at the chest because this one gave me more health, and I know that the amulet will get spit out by the portal once I exit the challenge rift. Again, I like to go slow with these challenge rifts, and once you get a hang of the timings and stuff, these challenge rifts are really not that bad. Especially for the spike. the hitboxes for the spikes, because you are actually allowed to touch the metal sections of the spikes, because that part doesn't count as a hitbox. The hitbox of the spikes comes from the bronze part, where at the bottom of the spikes where the stems are, so you will only take damage if you come in contact with that portion of the spikes. If you like just touch the tip of the spikes, it's usually okay. And here I'm playing a bit carelessly because I forgot I was cursed. I mean, sometimes it happens to you. You just get too excited with the game and you just forget about everything. In this case, should be more careful with the curses because, well, one hit and I'm dead, so. Any 60 kill doors, I picked up a quick bow, as well as a parry shield to kind of upgrade my gear, but a little bit of spoilers is that I won't actually be picking up the double damage electric whip until like the later sections of the game. And since I do all my runs in normal mode, this is just something that I have to deal with. Unless I really want to use an item, I don't use custom mode because I'm just not a fan of custom mode. I know a lot of people use custom mode at like 2 BC to kind of get the hang of the weapons they're using, but honestly, I don't like that. I think Dead Cells is all about variety and experimenting, so personally, I don't find the fun in doing multiple runs using the same exact build. And here, I'm just doing some really nice parries. I usually don't play this well, but for some reason, I've been landing these parries left and right, which really is surprising, even after I played it, because this is a post-run commentary. Unfortunately, I was not able to parry the Rampager that time because it was just a bit too fast, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back and pick up the food that I found before I continue on, because in a tactics build, you will die in like 2 or 3 hits, so you definitely don't want to take that risk. Just checking the map where the food is, pick it up, and then go back to where I was before. Fortunately, the quick bow does a lot of damage. In my rankings video, I did put it in the S tier, so that makes sense. So obviously, it's going to be very good. And here, I don't know if you saw that, that was a parry of the knife thrower there. I was really impressed by that. I mean, I don't even know who's playing this game right now because whoever is playing is like a fantastic player. Okay, I'm just kidding. I was just feeling really confident in this run, so I think that's how I saw the knife thrower. But with the parries, you are actually allowed to consecutively chain parries together if you have already performed a parry. So, especially with the knife throwers, you are able to parry the 3 knife throwers in succession, because as soon as you parry the first one, your parry window resets and you're immediately allowed to parry again. Obviously, this is not the case if you only blocked the damage or if you did not block something at all. Wow, really impressed because that Rampager was invisible, I'm pretty sure, so again, I'm really astonished by what I'm able to do here, even though this is actually me playing, but... Okay, moving on to the Moraths of the Banished. And in this giant tick fight, you'll see me do something really interesting, and that's just staying in the corner and parrying all the attacks while shooting it with my quick bow. These tick monsters really aren't anything special, you just have to watch out for their attacks and you'll be good to go. Especially with the consecutive attacks, because I'm pretty sure all of its attacks come in successions. So when the tick does a frontal attack, you kind of have to like dodge away from the tick, because otherwise it would do another attack immediately with its hind legs where it like kicks backwards, and you kind of have to like roll at the correct timing to dodge it. And with the Elite Rampager, you'll notice that the attacks are actually a bit faster. I'm not sure if this is because of the melees going up or because Elites are just a bit faster in nature, but nonetheless, I'm able to parry all the attacks, and that is very good. I'm still trying to find the guaranteed curse chest in the Moraths, because I actually think the curse chest here is probably one of the easier ones to lift. So if you're looking to practice lifting curses, the one in the Moraths may be the best one to practice in. found another challenge rift, but this time I'm going to do some prepping before I enter it because I wanted to see if I can get 60 kills before I enter the portal, since I was already about halfway there and I didn't want to lose it in case I got hit in the challenge rift. Here I find the curse chest, which I've been looking for, but before I go lift the curse, I'm going to fight the elite slasher up here because dealing with elites while you're cursed just isn't something you want to do, especially if it's the double elites like that. Fortunately, I was able to kill them without any trouble, and now I'm going to go back and take the curse. And what I like to do in these footages is that I like to show the process of me actually lifting the curse. So the duration in which I am cursed, I'm going to leave this footage uncut, because I think it's pretty interesting to see, even though if, nothing's happening, you're still at the verge of death. One hit and the run is over, so there is something thrilling about being cursed. You gotta be careful with those aliens because their attacks are a bit unpredictable and they actually predict when you're about to parry. If you hold up a shield like right before they're about to attack, they actually teleport behind you and reset because it's not easy to parry them actually. In there with the Rampager parry, very good. Parrying when you're cursed also takes some time getting used to because again, one hit and you're dead. Did you know that you have a 100% chance to parry attacks while you're cursed? I mean, that's technically true because if you miss a parry, you're dead. Even if you block the shot, it still counts as damage, and when you're cursed, any form of damage will instantly kill you. And here, I'm not sure why I picked up the Wave of Denial, but it's working out really well. But as soon as I'm here, as I fought this giant tick monster, I just realized that this build isn't that suited for Mama Tick, considering that the flamethrower turret doesn't work, and the Wave of Denial is just kind of wasted in this case. So I get 60 kills and I go through to the portal, to the challenge rift, and I switch out amulets once again because I know there's a better amulet waiting outside, so I wanted to get more health and maximize my chances of succeeding. So I've said this in the last video, but I'm a big fan of difficult games. I've played difficult games of every single variety so far. Well, almost every single variety, but I've played Sekiro, so that was by the same creators as Dark Souls, and I really enjoyed it. And the thing about Sekiro is that when I first played it, I rented it from a coworker, and I picked it up and I played like the first level, and I just couldn't beat it because it was like, I've never played a Souls-like game before, and doing something like that just wasn't something I'm used to. Like, I was literally stuck in the first mini-boss, and I even died several times in the tutorial, which I'm pretty sure that some people actually did. But here's when online guides really helped me out. So when I was still struggling mastering the basics of the game, I remember watching this one YouTuber that taught me basically the ins and outs of every single boss, what to watch out for, and how to get used to the deflecting mechanic, which was kind of like Sekiro's equivalent of dodge rolling in Dark Souls. And once you get a hang of the mechanic, like the combat in Sekiro is almost like a rhythm-based game, which is really weird. It is a game that taught me that just blindingly mashing the attack button isn't going to make your problems disappear, just like in Dead Cells. So there are a lot of weapons in Dead Cells where mashing the attack button just isn't going to work in your favor. And speaking of rhythm games, another difficult game that I used to play a lot back in the day was called Geometry Dash. This was back in when I was in 9th grade and I just got my phone. And back then, I would just literally spend like hours in my room just grinding out levels and trying to beat difficult levels. And I'm not sure why I went to Still Village here, since this is going to be a preview from my biomes guide, but I think Still Village is one of those biomes that you should just try to avoid because there aren't a lot of mobs here. It's a bit too short, and honestly, it is the easiest out of these biomes, but I do think that the rewards that you get here is just not worth it. There is a guaranteed food shop here, but there is not a curse chest, which may be a turnoff if you're a more experienced player. So back to Geometry Dash. Now that I think back on it, it has been like 6 years since I last played it, since when I played it, it was still like 2014. And one of the main reasons that it just kind of died over these years is that the creator for Geometry Dash just didn't update the game in like 2 to 3 years. Because I remember the last update was in like 2017. I'm pretty sure he's still around and playing the game, but for some reason the game is not updated, so the community just kind of died off because there's just no new content to work with. One of the major aspects of Geometry Dash was that there were a lot of community levels, and some of them can get really creative. Here, just getting the second key, I wanted to go to the Forgotten Sepulchre because, just like Still Village, I think Clock Tower is one of those biomes that you should just kind of try to avoid, because I don't think the rewards is very worth it. Now, it is the earliest biome that new players can go to, so I mean, it makes sense for a beginner's biome, but like, once you get more into the game, I think Caverns or Forgotten Sepulchre are just more interesting biomes in general. And here, for some reason, there's no light source, so I try to run back to the light source. I took some chip damage, unfortunately, so I lost this kill streak. And it looks like the lamp just broke at the last second, so I was really lucky to get the light source. In the Forgotten Sepulchre, I think it's mainly suited for tactics builds because you have to move place to place very fast, otherwise you will take damage from the darkness. There I find the curse chest, but I'm trying to see if there are any platforming puzzles just like that one, because had I taken the curse chest when I saw it at first, I would have to go through that little trap puzzle, and if I got hit, I would have taken damage. But in this case, because I found the next teleporter, I can just go back to the curse chest without fearing of getting hit by the spike balls. So that's also one of the tips I put out in my guide on how to lift curses, because as long as you go slow, as long as you know what each enemy does and how they're going to do it, as well as the timings of their attacks, then generally being cursed really isn't a big deal. And there, unfortunately, I angered an elite knife thrower, so I was going to fight it. Fortunately, it didn't put up too much of a fight, and I was just able to kill it without it even doing anything. Get the first crypt key, open the door, move on to the next area, fight another elite. This time around, it's going to be a failed experiment, which, again, no problem, because I'm dealing so much damage with its tactics build, I'm able to kill it easily. And since this amulet had a quadruple jump, I took it over my own, since it was the same tier and it gave me the same stats anyways. I got a bit nervous on the jump puzzle there, but fortunately I was able to clear it without any problems. And I don't remember when, but I did pick up the Thunder Shield, which is probably one of the best shields in the game. However, the caveat is that it's only accessible if you're playing at 5 DC. Again, Wave of Denial is just really good right now, just clears off everything, and the cooldown is just really short, so you can basically use it whenever you want. Again, in my tier list, I did put Wave of Denial in the S tier, so obviously it's going to be very good. Here I'm just getting the second crypt key and move on to fight. I think I'm going to fight the Timekeeper here, because I think I go to the Giant too much and I always wanted to shake things up a little. Now, like I said before, this was recorded before Fatal Falls came out, so unfortunately I don't have any Scarecrow fight footage, but I promise the next videos after this will contain new content. And the first weapon that I'm interested by, the new DLC, is probably the Snake Fangs, because I think it does a unique thing. It's pretty simplistic to use, but there's a lot of flavor behind it, and I really want to try it out. So that's gonna be the first weapon on my radar to try out as soon as I'm done with midterms. Again, I'll have a bit more time next week, so I'm just going to record these videos ahead of time so I can put out some content over this week as well as the weekend. And here we're just gonna go to the Timekeeper fight. the Timekeeper just really isn't putting up too much of an issue right here, because I'm just able to melt through this boss just with the Thunder Shield alone, and there is a flawless fight. So really happy how that went. Usually I don't no-hit Timekeeper, but because this is a tactics build, I think it is considerably easier to no-hit bosses if you're playing tactics. And here we finally see the star of the show, the double damage electric whip. I normally don't take double damage items because I do like to take risks, but I don't like to take that much of a risk, since there's a type of risk where like it really pays off in the end, and there's a type of risk that's just not worth it at all. So a example of something that's not worth it would be something like the Curse Sword, because I think you are allowed to make mistakes while playing this game. Since the Curse Sword just kills you if you get hit even once, I don't think that's more of a challenge. I don't think that counts as a challenge. It's just kind of unfair and not really fun in my opinion. Generally speaking, I think tactics builds have the best double damage items since they have the lowest amount of health given to the player anyways. So if you take double damage, you basically just activate the one-shot prevention system and you just kind of move on. I mean, I think for survival builds, double damage items work the worst in, because while survival you're given the maximum amount of health out of the 3 colors. So because you're given that health advantage, I don't really see any reason to use double damage items, since mainly that health advantage is what you're looking for when you're playing survival. So again, with these parries just working out really well for me, I'm able to do a lot of damage to Hand of the King, because while I am running double damage, so there is the flawless Hand of the King fight. Really happy with that. But again, it would have caused me some trouble if I got hit even once. I did pick up disengagement because, well, if I was hit with this weapon, I will probably just go down to like 20% HP anyways, so it didn't really make too much of a difference. And disengagement protects me from being one-shotted, which is always nice. I think a lot of people on tactics builds like to use disengagement because it provides that protection they need in case something goes wrong. Because unlike in survival builds, if you get hit in a cluster of attacks, you're basically dead. And with the librarians, I'm able to just hit it with the electric whip since it auto-targets enemies and the librarian isn't that tough to begin with. Best thing about the electric whip is that it's unlocked right from the beginning of the game, so anyone can just start trying out this weapon, and it's just so good. Now I should mention that I didn't make a tier list for shields because I don't believe shields deserve a tier list, since everyone kinda knows what shields are good and what are not. And since there aren't a lot of shields in the game in the first place, I just don't think it's worth it to make a tier list out of it. Same thing goes for mutations. Like, I want to believe that every single mutation serves a purpose. Like, I don't think there should be a mutation where you just pick every single time because it's just so broken. I think that every mutation should be situational, and in the end, although no mutation should be like S tier, I think all mutations should be at least usable in some builds. The most broken mutation right now seems to be Parting Gift, which I am using right now, because the damage potential on it is just insane. It's just so massive. It just does everything for you. Luckily though, it is a tactics mutation, so you cannot use it when you're playing brutality or survival, which makes sense since I've said this countless times before, but I think tactics should have the best items in the game. And here I was just really surprised because I haven't yet taken a single instance of damage in the Astrolab yet. I got a bit worried with the slammer for a second, but honestly, if you make mistakes, you find ways to fix it. You find ways to get rally points back, and if you've been playing this game a lot, you'll know what to do if you take damage. Now, I did forget to take Masochist because I think that would have helped a bit here, since getting hit by the light beams, the blue light beams, is pretty detrimental if you're on low health. And same thing on this run, my scroll stat is at 35, which is very, very high. It wasn't as high as my last run with the Spite Sword, and that was at 37, but 35 is still considered very, very good. Normally on runs, I generally have an average of 30 to 32 scrolls, So because I got a bit lucky with the dual stat scrolls, I'm able to get more stats than normal. Here I just do the cheese with the slammers. This time I don't even go back to get the food because I don't need any food at this point. So just go on through to fight the collector. And this will be the final stretch of this run. The collector will be a bit challenging considering that all of its attacks will do a considerable amount of damage, and since I'm running double damage electric whip, I will be taking a lot of that damage. So if I get hit even once in this fight, it is gonna be a bit tricky for me, and just like that, I kind of already lost the no-hit. Messed up the parry window a bit there. However, I did expect one of those jab attacks to proc my disengagement mutation, but it looks like the collector does less damage than I expected. Again, just put down the electric turret, the Tesla coil, and basically it just does a crap load of damage because, as I also put it, the Tesla coil is also an S tier item in my skills tier list, so it makes sense to put it here. Do some parries with the light beams. This is an attack that I probably have the most trouble with, but I was able to parry all of its attacks and I drink the Panacea and the collector is dead. And there is the run. So hopefully you have enjoyed this run with double electric damage gameplay. The theme of this build was kind of just electric damage since all of my setup, well, most of my setup contains something to do with electricity. Again, hopefully you've enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun putting this run together. It is definitely one of my wilder runs, which I definitely like, and it really made me appreciate tactics runs a bit more. So that's gonna be it for this video. Any videos that come after this will contain brand new content from Fatal Falls, including, I think the next run that I'm going to do will feature the new weapon, the Snake Fangs, so stay tuned for that. So until then, thanks for watching.